Hello again, this is Fiendish with the Dimension Touring Company, and here for the second installment of our From the Ground Up video building series. And we're back in the Endless Eclipse that episode 1 was, and as you can see, the entry point is not exactly the same as it was when we left it last night. What I've added here are just a couple things to kind of add a little bit of feel, ambiance, whatever you want to call it, to the dimension. There's a terrace pond here, a couple of silent waterfall splashes to go with the drip lines that are up here, a large scarwood boulder blown up almost to maximum size, not quite, to close off the opening that was between these two big rocks up here. I've also got some cherry trees to cover up the spines that were poking out. And what I want to do, since I've got two of them that are the same size and rotation, is I want to turn one so it doesn't look so obviously copied and pasted. And it'll also help to further disguise those spines that are there. Now most of the spine is embedded in the trunk of this big tree right here. And most visitors will not notice things like that. They're just things that I like to do. And then for color, I've got a red tentacle vervain tree in here. And I really like the brightly red colored leaves on that tree. So what we're going to do tonight for this episode is we're going to start setting our boundaries. We're going to do it down here at the entry as well as up on our main platform. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to open up Toolbox, and I want to use the Vervain Terrace curve segment because I want to make an arch, but I don't want to make a full-blown arch out of rectangles because I want to just use as few items as possible for pieces like this. So I've got it to the minimum size. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees in the pitch. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste the second one there, but I'm going to rotate it 90 in the yaw and 90 in the pitch. Now I'm going to reset the second one and then rotate it. Why reset it? Because a lot of times toolbox errors will make it so that it gets cockeyed in other angles at the same time instead of just doing flat out the rotation that you want. So it's always best practice to just reset it, then change it to the angle, and as you can see, another toolbox bug flip the degree of the pitch, but it flipped it the way we wanted it to, so we'll go ahead and just leave it alone. So now I'm going to raise that up. These cherry trees may have to go. And I'm going to open my bags again and get this. Now Endless Eclipse is slightly off the axis, but for the purpose of this we're going to use everything on axis and then tilt it. Most dimensions are off axis, they're not on the axis. And that kind of makes things a challenge and a headache sometimes. But I mean, it is what it is. The easy way to do it is just to create your set and then rotate the whole thing to where it matches. Now we're going to raise it all up, so all three pieces, so that now we're touching the ground. Now to support these arch ends here, I'm going to take a pole, make it maximum size, and wiggle it into place. But I don't want it sticking way out like that. So I'm going to come back and drop it down a little, copy, paste, and manually slide that into position. And I'm not too worried if there's bits poking out the sides on this. That's because we're going to flank these arches with two towers. Let's go ahead and shrink those just a little bit. And slide it back in. Alright, you can see it wants to be difficult. Alright, copy, paste, And when you deal with things that are extra large, it makes adjustments a little bit of a challenge, because now you see I'm continually looking down at the arrows, then looking up at the object to see where it's actually sitting. Okay, so now let's go ahead and make the towers. Now I cheated and I saved the set last night for my towers, and we're going to do this the item count saving way, and we're going to make them not round but octagonal. The Blaze Castle, it's a round building, and it's surrounded with 4 round towers. Now round towers, depending on what you use, can take, and how you set the angle, can take up to 36 pieces just for the tower itself, and that's not counting if you're leaving cutouts for windows or anything else. So let me find this set. As you can see, I do a lot with toolbox. I have a lot of sets. So I've selected the set that I want to load, the limestone single octave tower. I'm going to tell you, and it's going to tell me what I need. Small Burvanic dome roof, check. 8 limestone planks. Now toolbox, make sure you have to take everything out of your bags that you need for a set before it will load the set. If you use dimension tools, there's an option to just pull everything either out of your bags or out of your bank. Let me see where I'm at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 3 dwarven wall octagons. Select everything and then load the set. Then I'm going to come back over here and place it. But I don't want the whole octagon sticking up out of the ground. Just the base is good enough for now. So we're going to leave it right about there. And then what I'm going to do, since I'm down here, is I'm going to save the set again. I'm going to hit load at original location, which means that the next time I load this set, it should load in the exact same spot that I just put it in. I'm going to select it again, load set. Oh, that's not quite right. So this is what I'm talking about with those toolbox bugs, where it flips one of the rotations in usually the pitch or the roll, almost never in the yaw. But it reverses your angle and can become quite a pain to deal with it. But this fix is actually really simple. While I still have everything selected, I'm going to save it again. I'm going to hunt it down again, and then I'm going to load it, and voila. Now every time I go to load this set as it is, it's going to load up exactly right. But that doesn't answer the question of how the tower was built in the first place. So let me put something down here to stand on that's away from cherry trees and everything else, and then we'll go ahead and build this tower from scratch. Okay, so I found a mausoleum in my bags. We're going to use that just as a platform to stand on. It's away from all the clutter that we have back at the entrance. Now I've got a plank here, and this is what we're going to use as a foundation. I'm going to blow it up to maximum size and rotate it 90 degrees in the roll. This is going to make it stand straight up. And I'm going to sink it down so it's going to be easy for me to see where all the seams are. I'm going to copy it, and you can paste this either using offsets or with the manual rotation. But I'm going to rotate it 45 degrees in the yaw and 90 in the roll. I'm going to paste it, reset it, and then rotate it. Now usually with the off angles like 45 and 30 and 60 and everything else, you're not going to notice too much of that reversal with the pitch and the roll functions. You'll really notice it when you're trying to do a 90-90 split. which is going to be, of course, the next one. I'm going to move it back. Now, if you're like me and you can't really do those fine incremental movements by hand, use toolbox. Make sure you check the relative box, and then move it, and there we go. It will make those minute adjustments for you so that you don't have to. Now, as you see, I've got some flicker going on at the top, so I'm going to move this second one 1/1000th of an inch in the Y. Now I'm going to get another rect plank, paste, reset, rotate. Octagons are a great way to save item count when you need to make things that can look roundish but don't have to be perfectly round. Depending on the angle, a lot of times I don't use anything bigger than a 15-degree angle when I'm making circular objects, and that's 24 pieces for one thing, and up to 36 or even higher depending on what you use. So octagons are a great way for me to save some item limit in the areas that are just here to add a little bit of context or aren't really important to the central theme of the build, but are just there to kind of like window dressing. So now we've got the next one. It's a -45. And there we go. And then we're going to set that to 90, and then all we have to do from that point on is copy and paste what we've already done, when we won't have to go through the hassle of the rotate and reset, except for on one, and that's going to be this one right here. Now I'm picking from the ones diagonal are going to be the same angle from each other, not necessarily straight across, and they're going to do, if I did this one the same as this one, then my angle would be off. It would be the reverse of what I needed it to be. So I'm going to get right up on it to make sure that the adjustment's okay. Copy and paste. Oh, there you see it right away. It pasted in the wrong position because the center point moved to the item. So reset and rotate, and now it's correct. And I can just move it into position where it needs to be. And then the last one. And the last one is always the test, because that's when you see how well everything lines up. In a perfect world, it's all going to line up exactly right, and you won't have to go through and make any kind of adjustments after everything is already in place. But it is not ever a perfect world. But sometimes it's actually pretty darn close. There we go. And we go through, make sure we don't have our gaps or too many gaps. Now I want my dwarven wall octagon, and I'm going to set the bottom one now. Now you see that it doesn't quite line up with the octagon that we've already set. Half of a 45-degree angle is 22.5 degrees. So that's all we want to rotate this to, where the sides will line up perfectly with the sides that we've constructed here. And then keep adjusting, trying to get it centered. Now you could use a dimensional distance indicator on this, but this size is too small for the indicator to track. The indicator's smallest size is 5 meters. This is quite a bit smaller than that. You want to run around from all sides and make sure that it's lined up, just like so. And then we want to select the pieces of we want to select the actual planks and raise it up so that it's nice and tall. Then we're going to copy the octagon that's down there, paste, reset, and rotate, because this one is going upside down. The way that the dwarven wall octagons work is they're mostly a facade. So from the if I'm looking at this underside from down here, I'm not going to see anything, and that really it kind of doesn't make for a pleasant viewing experience. So now I'm going to copy the one that's already there. Notice I've removed the 180 in the roll to turn it upside down. I'm going to paste it, reset it, and then rotate it, lift it up, and there you can see that facade effect, and then lower it down so that it caps that tower in a way that I like a great deal. Now I'm going to copy the octagon, and I'm going to set this small Brevanic roof down, the dome roof on it. Now you see with scaling, these are much smaller than those, so it's better to just make it a little bit bigger, and then it's much easier to shrink it down to size. And that's it. Now we're going to make sure that we get the positioning of this lined up with the one that we've already got. I'm going to select all of it again. Through the item list is going to be much easier. Yep, got it all picked. We'll come back over here and hit load set. Now it's in the exact same spot that the other one is, and then we can just slide it over and put it in place, and know that it's going to be level and symmetrical with the other one that's down here. So now these are some pretty plain arch here, without anything to set it apart or make it really sparkle. What we're going to do is I'm going to embed my violet light in here, inside there. So, and the way limestone really reflects light has a great deal with my choice of the violet light, in addition to the sky projector itself, because sky projectors really impact the way that your lighting appears. And I do have a couple Brevane windows, and then we're going to shrink it down. And this is just, there's no purpose to these Brevane windows outside of just to add a little bit of embellishment to this arch that we've made here. Now with the 5 o'clock time of day that we've got set for here, the other side is lit up. We're just going to slide that over, and then decorate the center with these metal spheres. Whoa! And you can see with the collision point of this Brevane window is the considerable distance beneath the window itself. It's not actually in the center, so that when you try to copy and paste something, it might be center going from left to right, but from top to bottom, you gotta eyeball it. And that's what we're doing here. Copy. and paste. So that's so that we have the vertical right. And now it's just a very easy matter just to line up the horizontal. Okay, so but we still have this PVP banner here and all this other area to either cover up or use in some way. And we're going to cover it up. But first, I want to set my PVP banner to where it's going to make the gate more interactive than it is right now. I'm going to bring it over here. And just enough of the sparkle has to be sticking out so that anyone that comes in here can click on it. So a teeny tiny little bit of the banner still has to poke out so that you can actually select it and click on it. So that way then you will teleport up to the top. Now we want this whole thing to be very close to the actual zone endpoint of the dimension. There's no reason to have a lot of room and items used down here. So we're going to select everything that we've just put down all the way up to the arch itself. And then we're going to try to get as close as possible to the zone endpoint of the dimension. And this is a good spot right here that gives us not too much to have to cover up, except for right here where you can really see all the ugliness that's going on up above, which is outside of the boundary that we've got up there. So we're going to take another curve segment and we're going to make a wall to go with our arch. I'm going to open Toolbox again. And yes, I do use Toolbox for just about everything. I'm going to set it to -90 and then see what happens when we turn it to 180. Because I'm using all white. So, and that went the other way from what I wanted. So we need to go 180 in the pitch. And there we go. Let's set it down just a little bit so that I got that pretty border without the rest of it. Now I'm going to copy and paste, but of course the direction isn't going to be the same because this is a rounded curve. So it's going to be a 90 and a 180. 90 would make it so that it definitely blended exactly straight across there. Then we'll come do a check, see how they look on the side to side. I want it to be pretty close to symmetrical. It doesn't have to be exact. And so now all we have to do is put something down that will disguise anyone from seeing up above. Good way to do that is always with some vegetation. Close out Toolbox, manually rotate these trees, push it outside my little wall here, and then bring it down. Now what do you see? You see pink foliage, and you can see that there's something up there, but you're not quite sure what it is because that view's pretty obstructed. And there's one. And then to close off these rocks here, add a little bit of depth. And then we'll bring that down. I like to sink most of my trees and keep the foliage pretty close to eye level. About like that. Now the one thing that we don't want to obscure is this banner right here. People have to be able to find this banner. And we'll push that in just a little bit more. And may rig a handle there. Now, those are what I'm after. Definitely want to shrink this thing down. And I'm not normally a fan of the high-low trees, but for the thought of a folly, I think that would work out very well. Now we'll make it a little bit bigger. And not copy and paste, but do a Control D and just bring another one down and manually turn it. And then move this back a little. And then the way that these trees don't want to line up together. You can see once you start adding greenery in, things become a little bit harder to select just because there's so much stuff in the way. You're going to accidentally hit some foliage or hit a pond or hit this house and then probably end up pulling something up by accident. So this is about all that we're going to do down here for right now. Except that I do want to add a handle to my gate here. Okay, for the gate, just in case it doesn't line up the right way, which it doesn't, I'm going to use a green rune carafe vessel because these things have some pretty nice handles on it. And then I'm going to make it larger. And I'm going to push it through here. So now you can still see the PvP banner and still select it. Push it over a little bit more. And there we go. So now I've got a way into my gate that's up top. And let's go ahead and go up top to the platform and see what we've got done up there. As you can see, we did a pretty good job with the start point. And oh my, look how colorful things are up here. We've got high-low trees and walls and a fountain, and just some basic groundwork has been laid. There's nothing been too much added. And for as far as landscaping goes, a lot of that is going to be our next episode, where we'll talk more about the landscaping and color choices and why would you pick high-low trees over any other tree in game, and how do you make this fountain. As you can also see, we'll be discussing dimensional distance indicators during this series. And as far as making the towers and this boundary wall, we already covered all that down on the lower level. The same principles apply here, and it's just a matter of copying and pasting once everything is in the right direction that you want it to face. These mausoleums here are in place just as a guideline of about where we want the placement of the house. And as you can see, it's central to these two towers here. According to the distance indicator, everything tells me that it's pretty symmetrical, and the center point of these towers is going to equate to the center point of the house itself. Now, you don't have to be that picky, of course, but sometimes it helps. And that will conclude this episode of the From the Ground Up video building series, and we'll see you next time when we talk about landscaping. Thank you.